It seems like psychics have always been a staple of video game lore, whether they're aliens, kids, or genetically modified super soldiers. Making someone a psychic is a convenient way to give someone supernatural powers in such a way that people can immediately understand, without having to build a huge backstory behind your reasoning. And while some games use it to just dismiss some mundanity, Second Sight embraces its psychic aspects completely. From the skeptic who takes every opportunity to scream about how none of this is possible to the secret government research facility. All the tropes are present and accounted for. And as a result, Second Sight is a painfully predictable little game, but that doesn't make it bad. It's likely that I have reduced expectations for older games, but while the story is campy and pretty overwrought, it's tolerable and even borderline enjoyable for most, if not all, of the game's runtime. However, as usual with a third-person game from the time period, my biggest issue is how the game's lock-on targeting works, or more accurately, doesn't work. Shooting in Second Sight is bad, but thankfully, for a lot of the game, you don't really need to engage with it. Your psychic powers, if used strategically, are more than enough to dispatch enemies, and honestly, it's far more satisfying to do it that way in the first place. There are a huge number of different powers that allow you to approach the game however you want, though the game is definitely balanced towards a stealth approach. Try to take large groups on in a violent manner, and enemies will begin to endlessly spawn, until you manage to hide or at least complete your objective, which can vary from a minor hindrance to a major annoyance depending on the situation. The much larger problem is that you can't use your psychic powers throughout the entirety of the game. In an attempt to mix up the action and do some gradual backstory reveals, the game will often switch over to a military operation in the past, where you haven't developed your powers quite yet. So it creates this really weird situation where I absolutely loved most of the game. Anytime that I had the psychic powers and could approach problems in any way I wanted to, it was great. But then I would be thrown into another flashback mission that I really didn't want to play. The shooting isn't exactly terrible, but it's not good enough to justify creating missions where you're forced to make use of them and only them, instead of all the other options that the rest of the game provides you with. And looking at this game today, the most prominent and damning barrier to enjoying it is just that the whole powers thing has been done better elsewhere. At the time, Second Sight was a fun ride that used powers in new and interesting ways, and it remains interesting as a historical artifact, but its forced gunplay segments drag the game down to a point where it becomes very difficult to recommend when put up against modern games. If you are interested in grabbing a copy, as far as I'm aware, there are no major issues on any of the platforms it was released on, and used copies are reasonably priced. One special note though, the PC version is only available physically, as it has been pulled from every digital storefront that it was once available on. Every Monday, I look at a game that is at least 10 years old, what I would consider to be retro, and I review it in a modern sense. Is this game, considering everything that's come out since then, still worth playing? Is it still fun? If you like that idea, be sure to subscribe so you can see my latest videos. If you like this video in particular, be sure to hit the like button. And if you have an idea for a game I should review in the future, be sure to leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.